Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to another Chamber Check-In episode from Idaho's only 5-star accredited chamber. Today, we get to learn about Capstone Accounting and Tax. And we have co-managing partner for Capstone Accounting with us today, Greg Langston. And he's been in the industry for almost 20 years. And I'm going to bring him on stage.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Greg.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for carving out a little time with me today. As we talked earlier before going live, these chamber check-ins have been great ways of helping share our members' stories. And I love that, sharing our members' programs and services and products and you name it. But most importantly, I love sharing and learning about the people, right? So let's start off with you, Greg. Tell us a little bit about your background. I dug into your LinkedIn profile a little bit just to learn about you, and was surprised that you started so long ago and you remained in the industry.
Yeah. So originally I'm from Oklahoma, born and raised there. Got my undergrad at the University of Arkansas, and then transitioned over to the University of Oklahoma where I got my master's. And that's kind of where I found my love for accounting, if you will, so long ago. So started there, transitioned, took a couple jobs, and then ended up here at Capstone in 2019.
Well, I mean, how do you stumble upon accounting? Did you go to school for that, and tell us that story?
Sure. Yeah. My dad was an accountant. Yeah, his degree was in accounting. But he practiced private for a while, working for a watch company and then for a restaurant. And then he ended up buying his own practice as my grandfather's business as a hardware lumber store in Oklahoma. So I grew up working there, loading trucks with lumber, cement bags, all that fun stuff, and kind of saw what an accounting degree could do, that there's some entrepreneurial side to that. And then I always was doing side jobs as a kid, mowing lawns, different things like that. And one of those was for a CPA in the Oklahoma City area, so about 3 hours from where I grew up. He had a vacation home in the community where I was at. So anytime he was out visiting, I would help him load couches, unload a refrigerator, different things like that. His wife was a antique collector, and he called her a junker, a junk collector. And so we would unload the trailers, put new junk in, take out the old stuff, and yeah, got to know him really well. Worked for him through college, and then when I needed to go to grad school, he offered me a job and said, "Come work for me. I'll pay you a good wage. I'll pay for your grad school, and you just work off the time for me." And so I did that. Got into it through there, and he did a really good job of hand holding me as a young kid from a small town. I didn't know a whole lot about business other than seeing my dad's business. And we would sit in meetings. He'd have the clients come in. He'd be explaining the tax return, and then he'd invite me into the conversation. "Hey, Greg, here's why this is important," and start talking through mentoring me in front of the client. And I think it's when it opened my eyes that we're not just preparing tax forms all day long. We're really impacting people's lives, making change in their businesses, helping them run successfully.
Well, I think what was really smart about him is he saw some work ethic in you from that very beginning, where you're doing the yard work, right? The landscaping, and anybody that comes from landscaping or obviously has got some work ethic, and I like that about him because he saw some promise in you. That's so cool. More and more, I talk to people here who are leaders in Boise, and they started out with either a newspaper route, right, in the morning, or they were mowing lawns during high school. Anyway, so for those parents out there, get your kids started early mowing lawns. Okay, let's talk about Capstone Accounting and Tax for a minute. They've been around a long time. There's a lot of experience there. Tell us the origin story.
Yeah, so Capstone started over 20 years ago. Lance Brand, our founder, he kind of worked Big Four, went private for a while, and decided he was going to start his own accounting firm. And early 2000s. And then we've started growing in 2019, really with this idea of let's meet with other CPAs and help them help their clients. So a lot of small practices, the CPA is preparing tax returns, he's scanning in documents, they might be doing payroll, and we said let's help offload some of that for you. We'll do your employees' payroll, we'll do your clients' payroll. We have tax preparers. And you spend time with your clients. One of our favorite lines that he uses is, "We want CPAs moving their mouths, not their hands." So spend time consulting with your client. We have preparers that need to learn and do the prep, and they'll do that on the back end. You spend time with your clients, and that kind of really spearheaded our growth to these communities, these small cities that we started acquiring and moving into, and really merging them in is how we see it as part of the company.
I love that. You find a solution or an issue and try to provide a solution. You're in 5 states, in Boise and in another 5 states, right?
Yeah, yep, 6 states now. Yep,
Oh, wow.
six. Yeah, yeah.
That's incredible. And I mentioned the experience. So if you've been doing accounting for just under 20 years, tell us a little bit about your team and their experience.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we got a couple CPAs have been doing this for 40 plus years, all the way to young kids coming right out of college. So, a lot of depth and experience across various industries. So, we do not just tax, we do consulting, advisory, attest work, client accounting services or CAS, so bookkeeping, payroll. Got focus on a lot of those. We even have a business valuations team. So if you're selling your business or buying a business, we can help kind of quantify and put a business value to that for you.
Yeah, I was looking at your website. In fact, I'm going to scroll it at the bottom of the screen here, so others can take it opportunity to look. Some of the services, obviously tax, accounting, business valuations, audit, and assurance. You mentioned business consulting, and I want to dive in a little bit more on that because of the fact that sometimes we just see our accountants one time a year, and we have a maintenance program for our lawns. We have a maintenance program for our HVAC, right? Tell us how you partner with your clients. That is more about maintenance.
Yeah. So anytime I meet with a client, a new prospective client to me, I tell them I expect us to meet quarterly at a minimum, right? Like let's set up, understand the flows of your business, right? What Q1 could be different than Q2. Are you doing better? Are we doing worse? And how do we plan for those things? The biggest mistake we see is people coming to us in April going, "What can I do to save taxes last year?" And I always say, "Well, plan better this year," because there's very little we can do come April 15th to help lower our tax bill. So when we're thinking about that, start thinking ahead, right? Like it's like a road trip. You don't get to your destination and go, "I wonder if there was another way I could have driven here that was faster," right? You've planned that route, so let's plan where we're going. And then the tax prep side is the easy part because we've planned for this. We've already thought it through. Now we just have to put it down on paper.
I think that's really important. Have a relational experience with your CPA, your accountant, and your tax friends. It's really important. And I like that there's a relationship there. And it's pronounced as well. Become a client, become a partner. Let's collaborate. Do you work with individuals or just large companies? Tell us about your swath of clients.
Sure. Yeah. So we clientele kind of across the board. So we business clients, business owners. So whether they're C corps, flow through entities, high net worth individuals. We also do a little bit of what we call coordinated financial care. So that's help you with a holistic planning. So financial planning, tax planning, estate planning. We pull in third party partners. So imagine having your financial advisor and your estate planner all in the same meeting with your CPA. You talk about experience that we bring as a company, but talk about the knowledge that you have in the room at one time. Sit down with people, help get where you're going. Do we need to fund a 401k? Maybe we need a Roth 401k because we already have enough qualified assets. You really kind of can stretch stretch that knowledge a long ways in 1 hour. And the clients really like that because usually if a client's not doing that, right, they leave our meeting and they pick up the phone and say, hey, my CPA said this. And the financial advisor asks them a question and they go, well, I don't know. I didn't know I was supposed to ask that. So imagine we eliminate that barrier by having everybody in the room at the same time.
I think accounting and tax prep is not as complex as it seems, but it is, right? There's new laws. We want to be in compliance. Maybe now's a good time to give us some top 3 suggestions for this year as we enter into tax season, and maybe talk about any recent law changes that we should be aware of.
Sure. Yeah, I think, as we look at what changed in 2025 with the one big beautiful bill, some of those things are automatic. So new deductions for 2025. Think about the senior deduction. It's a $6,000 deduction, depending on your AGI limit. Auto loan being deductible. That's a new one this year. Sorry, auto loan interest is deductible, and then the no tax on overtime and tip income. Those are really seeing a big impact this year on tax returns, where people that are below that threshold are going, hey, why is my refund so high this year? And you can see a meaningful impact because withholdings weren't adjusted during the year for these new tax deductions, so they've been paying income tax on them with their wages, so they're getting nice returns. So those are all automatic, nothing you got to plan for there. Make sure you let your accountant know if you had overtime, things like that. But some of the new ones that we can plan for in 2026, bonus depreciation is a big one. That was set to phase out in 2026, and it was renewed to 100% deduction. So if you're a business owner and you're buying equipment, you can write it off 100% in year 1 versus over 5 or 7 years. So we're seeing a big impact on that one. And when we think about R&D credits is another one that had a big change prior to the tax law change. You could take the credit, but you had to amortize the cost. So if you spent $100,000 in R&D work, you had to take that deduction over 5 years. Now we can take 100% year 1 and we get a credit for the work. So that's a big deduction we're seeing come back, and that's something you can amend back 3 years. So people that have missed out on that can suddenly go in, amend 3 years of tax returns, and we're seeing $100,000, $200,000 refunds from this change just by amending a tax return.
That's incredible.
Yep.
Okay, I appreciate the update. If you're not familiar with some of those new recent tax laws and changes, you can always reach out to Greg. Also, they have a local team here in Boise as well. Greg can connect you. I wanted to talk a little bit about the way that things rapidly change, right? With all these new recent law changes. If we don't get them to this year, is there extensions, or how can we make sure we capitalize on all those changes? And is it too late now?
Yeah, for 2025, consider that book mostly closed.
Okay.
There's a few things you can do before the end of the year. You have Roth IRA contributions. Those are due April 15th. You can still max out your HSA if you haven't already. Business owners, potentially you could set up a retirement account, or you may still have some funding availability depending on the type of account you have set up. So some of those things are still available. Cost segregation studies is one that we can look back, and that's where if you have real estate, maybe you break out the real estate into different depreciable lives. So that's something you can go back and fix on the 2025 return for assets placed in service. After that, it's really starting to think through 2026 planning and what are these new laws? How do I start planning, take advantage of them ahead of time here?
Okay. How do we onboard with you? What is a client experience when they call Capstone and get started?
Yeah. So most people come through our website or phone call. We set you up with one of our CPAs. We have an initial consultation, and that's really explorative, where we're asking questions. Tell me about you. What are your plans? What are your goals? How's the business doing? How's the business going to do? Like, if you're making $1 million, Is the goal to be at 5? How do we help get you there? And then how do we keep the tax bill low from that standpoint? And we're looking at the business, but we're also looking at the business owner, because ultimately that's where most people pay the tax, is at the individual level. So we look at it collectively from a holistic approach.
That's where this consulting piece comes in, right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, the number of times where we've had clients come in and, you were targeting to make $1 million and now you're trending 1.5, you go, oh, we better change this plan. Was a 3-year plan. We better bring it down into a 1 year. Looking at various retirements or buying real estate, different things like that we can really, really change the tax needle.
That's awesome. Okay, we talked a little bit about all your services, personal and wealth advisory as well, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, yeah. We've partnered with Heritage Wealth Advisors in a few of our offices. So it's a third party relationship that we have with them, that we're comfortable to bring them into the office and have a conversation again about your financial plan and how do we get you there.
Full service shop. I love it, Greg.
Yeah, well, it's our one-stop shop. That's what we call it. So.
Hey, while we have you for a few more minutes during our conversation, is there anything else that you'd like to educate the listeners on?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a two-sided relationship. CPAs are busy right now, and I think we see a lot of people struggling for CPAs. They're not returning my emails, returning my calls. That's one thing we pride ourselves on at Capstone is if we call you back, we respond to your emails. It may slow down, it may be a 24-hour turnaround time instead of the same day during tax season. We're a little busy right now, as you can imagine, but yeah, we love helping our clients, and we reach out to them, get involved with them, and really proactive planning is kind of what we pride ourselves on, right? It's not that once a year relationship. It's an ongoing relationship that requires reaching out, checking in. We check in, you tell us if things have changed, and being proactive on both sides.
We were talking earlier about thinking of selling a business and saving money, right? It's well worth the time and effort to have a partner like you, Greg, from Capstone, to be along the ride, along the way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I could think of numerous times where we've come in last minute, made some tweaks, and saved clients thousands of dollars just by restructuring what was proposed by the buying party's attorney, right? Like not getting proper representation or just going through the deal docs, not really looking at the tax consequences. We have a partner that is a tax attorney, and he does a lot of M&A deals. So like that's one of his sweet spots. So we can pull him into that, whether you're selling $1 million business or a $100 million business. He's worked on those, and he's really good at it.
Awesome. Well, that stuff happens, and it's happening every day, and we see it daily as well.
Yeah.
Greg, thanks so much for your time with me today. I really appreciate your investment in the community, of course, your chamber membership.
Yeah, we appreciate the chamber, really value our relationship.
Awesome. Well, listeners, stay tuned next week as we get to hear from Hummel Architects, who are celebrating 130 years. If you went to Boise High, they built your school. Remember to like and subscribe our YouTube channel. Everybody have a great weekend. Bye, Greg.
Bye, Paul.